those of you at home, someone that I know pretty well, someone from the Pennsylvania area that I battled with and PTQs and such back in the day. So he's been around for a very long time, just like Gerard.
Yeah, and I would think if the Sultai control deck is what Gerard plans for it to be, this should be a decent matchup for him.
I would think so. I mean, it's a lot of the same tools, a lot of the same strategy, but Gerard is backing up with a lot more counter spells and a lot more card drawing. Seems like a good recipe.
Yeah, if you are truly a control deck in the format, you should prey on the mid-range.
Typically, yeah. You want to be playing with mana leaks and cryptic commands against those kind of decks.
Right. We'll see. Gerard with a healthy amount, as you said, of card draw and selection in his deck. What he's going to have to put up with is that Ben has a lot more discard and disruption. Ben can try to punch a hole through Gerard's strategy and ride a card like Liliana or possibly Dark Confidant through.
So the most important cards for Ben in this matchup, his discard spells, they're very good. His Planeswalkers are going to be solid, Liliana the Veil, and then Lingering Souls, because it's hard for Gerard to answer that card cleanly. The other cards, Tarmogoyf, Scavenging Ooze, Siege Rhino, Dark Confidant, if those end up carrying the day, that's great, but I don't think Ben expects that to happen. I think he's really leaning on his discard, his Planeswalkers, and Lingering Souls as his best cards in the matchup.
All right, well, we are underway. Gerard Fabiano on the play. He is on your right, playing Sultai. Ben Green on the left. Obzon, both players undefeated. And here we go. Gerard creeping Tar Pit, Ben with Verdant Catacombs. Both players just trading lands back and forth. And it'll be Gerard, the first one to make a play, searching up Forest here for all of his Sultai mana online.
Does Gerard have one Shadow of Doubt in his deck?
He does not have.
He seems like a one Shadow of Doubt kind of guy. That's why I ask.
The best part is when you ask him about it, like, Gerard, where's the Shadow God? He'll just say something like, oh, that card's not very good.
No, he's probably, no, I think his answer is probably, I just cut it. I had to make room for one, let's call it Golgari Charm, which is in
one compulsive research.
Yeah.
Right,
one Thoughtseize.
Is it one Thoughtseize? It is one Thoughtseize. All right.
I would make that up. No,
there's one Thoughtseize. All right, well, it's going to be Tarmogoyf on turn 2 for Gerard. Right now, just a 1-2, but it will grow as the course of the game goes on. Go over to Ben. He has a 2-drop of his own. Could be an opposing Tarmogoyf, but he also plays 3 Scavenging Ooze and 4 Dark Confidant.
Yeah, a lot going on 2. Nothing really happening for this deck on the first turn except for discard spells, maybe Path to Exile.
Searches just for basic forest here. Still missing white, but you see, it feels like the pressure is on Ben to get something going here.
Yeah, as the game goes on longer and longer, things get better and better for Gerard.
That's going to be Scavenging Ooze here. Gerard now will Thoughtseize on turn 3. We see what Ben's working with. It is a bevy of lands here. Looks like Godless Shrine, 2 fetch lands, Lingering Souls, and another copy of Scavenging Ooze. And Gerard will take the replacement Scavenging Ooze. Yeah. And not a hand full of threats for Ben. Gerard probably can get his way through that. That Thoughtseize into a creature did turn Tarmogoyf into a 3/4 though, so that'll turn sideways for Gerard, knocking Ben down on life to 15. And Gerard playing land 3, passes back, has blue-green up possible counter spells.
Yeah, Mana Leak, present in Gerard's deck. Scavenging Ooze is a little bit annoying for the Tarmogoyf, but this is one of the values of playing strategies like what Gerard's doing. If his Tarmogoyf dies or is otherwise invalidated, he doesn't really care that much at the end of the day. His deck's about doing other stuff.
If Ben's spending his turn here to just activate Scavenging Ooze, that feels like a win for Gerard.
Yeah, I think most likely Ben's going to try to cast the Lingering Souls here, and I believe that's what's occurring.
Yeah, Gerard will go ahead and go for the Mana Leak for it. Something that Ben's probably okay with here. I mean, anytime someone counters your Lingering Souls, it got some value.
Well, the issue here is Ben's not got a lot left in his hand.
Right.
And if something happens to the Scavenging Ooze, then his 2 flyers have to race a Tarmogoyf that's already 4/5 with Ben taking the shot. So the game might just be played at a pace here that's not favorable for Ben.
And that is exactly the recipe that happened. Overgrown Tomb of land for Gerard, but it is Abrupt Decay taking care of Scavenging Ooze before it gets a chance to eat anything in the graveyard. So Tarmogoyf puts Ben down to 10. It will remain a 4/5. Gerard has dispatched both of Ben's Scavenging Oozes. And Ben will play Godless Shrine tapped and say go. So no flashback on the souls is suspicious.
It means he drew something that matters.
And Abrupt Decay it is. Both players playing off the top here, and that's a fight that Gerard was ready for. It's going to be Thrag Tusk with 5 mana here.
And this card's just so generically good in any game that drags out, and that's what Gerard's deck is all about. just have our resources bump into each other. Eventually, we're in a spot where we have 4 or 5 mana. Your deck's probably not equipped to play that sort of game, and mine definitely is.
Thragtusk almost always a 2-for-1, if not a 3-for-1 in Modern. See, Ben spending 1 card on it. That's going to be Maelstrom Pulse. It's going to, Gerard gets his Beast token. Already got 5 life off it. Activating Creeping Tar Pit and swinging for 6. That'll put Ben Green down to 4 life.
And the Creeping Tar Pit really complicates the Lingering Souls plan here. Even if there's an answer to the Beast, he's got to find an answer to the Tar Pit as well. Very challenging to do.
And back here, yeah, Ben now at 4. Can he stabilize here? Both players are light on resources, but Creeping Tar Pit is going to be enough. Ben, without the answer, is going to go down. Gerard Fabiano up game 1.
And that was a classic Gerard game there against a mid-range deck. There was no turn that stood out as being particularly good. It's not like Gerard had some backbreaker at some point in the game. He just kind of hung around, did his thing, had some pretty good trades. Eventually, he gets to one of his expensive cards, which is worth multiple cards out of Ben's deck, and there you have it. Nothing fancy, just very well suited to playing an attrition game.
Yeah, he really was able to capitalize on the fact that Ben's hand was a little land heavy. Ben's best action card was Scavenging Ooze, and Gerard took care of both copies.
Yeah, so Ben did fly out a little bit there, but I think Gerard had a very solid game plan regardless.
Yeah, so with these players move to sideboard, we were talking a little bit about one of the publications we have coming up here, and that's Next Level Deck Building, the book by the innovator, Patrick Chapin.
Yeah, I mean, this is coming in paperback for the first time very soon. Patrick Chapin, of course, Pro Tour Hall of Famer, Pro Tour champion, 2-time runner-up at the World Championship, the most prolific writer in the history of the game, someone we're very excited to have writing this book and available in paperback very, very soon.
If you haven't heard him talk about Magic, his theory is among the best in the game. Certainly worth a read.
Right, and I think that, with him playing a lot now, with him not necessarily tied to playing Control at every single tournament, being a little bit more flexible, that combined with his theoretical base means he's one of the most dangerous players on the planet now and had excellent results through 2014.
Yeah, certainly has a Pro Tour win in the last year, something few people can claim.
With Fleece main Lion, I think.
That is one of the weirder parts.
Not with Cryptic Command, not with Mana League, not with Cruel Ultimatum, Fleece main Lion. So anyhow, if you want to learn anything there is to learn about Magic, I think Patrick Chapin's the best resource on the planet, and his publications for Star City Games have been extremely well received.
All right, well, going to the sideboard, let's first look at Ben Green's sideboard. He's going to have to become a bigger, more resilient deck. How does he do that?
Got some bad news. I don't think he's really that well suited. 2 Aven Mind Sensor, 2 Stony Silence, a Zealous Persecution, 2 Timely Reinforcements, a Sword of Light and Shadow, 3 copies of Fulminator Mage, an Engineer Explosives, a Duress, a Slaughter Pact, and a Creeping Corrosion. Not a lot to bring in here. The Duress is fine. I think the 3 copies of Fulminator Mage and the Sword of Light and Shadow are okay.
Yeah, I would say Sword maybe. I guess that can go bigger, but it certainly is prime target for Abrupt Decay.
We are looking at a couple of good sideboard cards here for Ben and nothing great.
Yeah, going over to Gerard's side, he actually isn't much better suited. He does have some things. He has a second copy of Thoughtseize in the sideboard. He has a copy of Vendilion Click that he could use here. Other things he has, Nature's Claim, Damnation, maybe Sower of Temptation, Knight of Souls Betrayal, and Fulminator Mages of his own.
I like Sower of Temptation a lot in this matchup because it's hard for Ben to leave in a lot of creature removal. And if he decides, well, I'll leave in the Abrupt Decays because those answer a variety of things in Gerard's deck, Sower's outside of range of that. And if Ben's leaving in cards like Path to Exile, that's a big victory for Gerard as well. I like bringing in the other control stuff here. I think the Vendilion Click's good. I like the Damnation. I like the additional copy of Thoughtseize. Just more, I think that Gerard's plan in this kind of matchup is just out good stuff, Ben. Just, we're drawing cards. Most of our resources just sort of collide into each other. It's removal spells or discard spells or creatures that are bouncing off of each other. And as long as I outdraw you, or I have the best thing at the end of the day, that's going to be good enough to win most of the games. So everything that fits into that strategy, even though they're sort of non-congruous parts, Sower, Damnation, Click, Thoughtseize, I think they just all add up to Gerard being able to outpower Ben.
Yeah, that certainly does seem like the game plan. A lot of his, it's not finesse in the deck. It really seems like it's power. It's like a big hammer here. You look at the sorceries that he resolves. Things like Ashiok, Damnation, Compulsive Research. These are just heavy hitters that really grind someone down.
And Ashiok, I think, could be very good in this kind of matchup because it absorbs a lot of attacks, and everything that Ben has as far as creatures go, is high impact and costs less than 5 mana. Tarmogoyf, Scavenging Ooze, Rhino, Dark Confidant. That's
They're
like
all great to
a
hit off
great
Ashiok.
roster of cards to hit off of Ashiok. So I think that card could be a player in this matchup.
Yeah, so interestingly, we were talking about the one Thoughtseize in Gerard's deck. He does have 4 copies of Inquisition of Kozilek, which is interesting that he's going, normally, I guess I see the split be a little more even here, but he does seem to show some concern for his own life total in matchups.
No, Gerard's very conscious, and decks like this, a lot of the decks that you build typically struggle game 1 against mono red, and I think he's conscious of that. Most of the time, Inquisition's going to be just as good as Thoughtseize, and if it helps a little bit with that matchup, well, it's definitely worth having Inquisition.
And Burn is a great deck in Modern. But we are underway game 2. Gerard does have one of those Inquisitions of Kozilek. He'll be on the draw. The hand we see here, Fulminator Mage, Liliana of the Veil, Dark Confidant, and Lingering Souls. If he doesn't have an answer to the Dark Confidant in turn 2, you feel like he has to take it, right?
Probably. But this is a very solid hand for Ben, you know? This is the type of hand that can go toe-to-toe with Gerard in the pure power level prism of the game.
Yeah, there are a lot of very strong cards here. Liliana, Dark Confidant, Lingering Souls, among the most powerful cards in Modern.
And I think Liliana and Lingering Souls, we talked about this earlier, perhaps Ben's 2 best cards in the matchup, period. So a very solid opening hand here for Ben.
And Dark Confidant is taken by Gerard. Ben will go ahead and fetch on end step here. He does have lands 2 and 3 already in hand. Just trying to go ahead and get his mana working. Godless Shrine is the find.
Not a lot of players had a better 2014 than Gerard. I mean, Open Series win, Grand Prix win here in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Second in the Players' Championship.
Certainly no one had a better December than Gerard.
Yeah, I mean, he's still, I think, looking to spike another Pro Tour. That's obviously on his list of things that he wants to do sometime in the near future. But between the tournament success and the decks he's built, he has had a really good run of the last 15 to 18 months.
Land drops traded by both players on turn 2. They're going to wait until turn 3 where the heavy hitters start to come out. And I like the draw for Gerard that turn. This is, I mentioned it before, a 1-of copy of Compulsive Research. It's so greedy, but just really the payoff is so high.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that if Gerard had the option, he would play 3 or 4 copies in this matchup. It's one of his better cards, so it's a little greedy, yes, but the cost is low and the ceiling is quite high.
And it'll be Lingering Souls from Ben.
Perhaps more powerful to get Liliana to play this turn, but Ben, respecting the possibility of Mana Leak or some other counterspell, would rather leave with the flashback spell.
And Gerard does have the Mana Leak, now deciding whether or not he actually wants to fire it off here.
Yeah, I think that this gives Gerard the opportunity to go Mana Leak your play, untap, cast Compulsive Research on an empty board. Yes, Ben gets to follow up with either a flashback of Lingering Souls or his Liliana or something else, but from a tempo and card advantage angle, it's a very solid opening here from Gerard.
Yeah, and most of those cards are things he can deal with. I guess Gerard will be hoping to dodge maybe a Siege Rhino. That could be difficult.
I think Liliana is the big threat here. Siege Rhino might be bad too, but Gerard's decks typically have lots of ways.
They can kill things.
It's very rare that someone sticks a random creature and Gerard's deck is, you know, oh, I have no way to kill this thing. That happens very rarely.
And 1 of each basic in play right now for Gerard. See what he chooses to resolve here. Is it going to be that Compulsive Research you mentioned? It's going to just be Snapcaster Mage on Thoughtseize.
This is awesome too. I mean, gets the Liliana out of the hand, leaves him with a Fulminator Mage against 3 basics plus a Lingering Souls in the graveyard. Can't
really
draw it up
strong for Gerard.
Can't draw it up much better than this.
And Ben had among his better cards in hand.
Yeah, you can't ask for much better of a hand than the one that Ben started this game with.
Yeah. Fulminator Mage and Treetop Village, the plays for Ben. We go back over to Gerard. He drew Damnation for the turn. Will offer a trade. Not going to be accepted. Ben down to 16.
Pretty bad sign for Ben if he's attacking right there.
And this is going to be Serum Visions from Gerard, setting up his draws. Draws a land. We have 2 Scry. And neither to be kept.
So Gerard's a funny case story in a number of ways. But he's always built his decks like this. And now, because his results have been so good, people have, started to crib his deck list. But he's been doing things like this for about 12 or 13 years. And back in the day, he was made fun of endlessly by the good players. And as time has gone on, Magic philosophy in deck building has moved way closer to where Gerard is than to where the other camp was.
So Gerard was like mid-range controlling before it was good.
Right, and I'm not saying that the way that Gerard builds his decks or every card selection is correct. What I'm saying is he was way ahead of his time, and now you see a lot of people sort of copying his influence in the way that decks get built and having very good results themselves.
And there we go. After the CM versions, Gerard does go for compulsive research, takes the shields down for a turn here. All Ben can do is Thought Seeds back. He sees Abrupt Decay, Fulminator Mage, Damnation, Creeping Tar Pit, Misty Rainforest. Nothing really great to take here.
Right, there's no hole in this hand. Again, Gerard is just trying to outstuff Ben, and that's a hand full of good stuff. No critical piece, nothing Gerard absolutely needs to resolve, but all the cards matter.
Yeah, especially because Ben has a Treetop Village in play. That Fulminator Mage is a real card. Abrupt Decay is almost always a real card. Ben's going to go ahead and take care of the Damnation, because it's probably Gerard's only elegant answer to the Lingering Souls Ben's casting.
Yeah, there's two paths there. Ben also has the option of taking the Fulminator Mage and hoping that Treetop Village goes unchecked against Abrupt Decay and Damnation.
Going with the 1/1s, Gerard is going to go ahead and Abrupt Decay the Fulminator Mage. He's doing that before making his land drop, so that now he can make Creeping Tar Pit. And he'll offer the trade of Snapcaster for a Spirit Token. And Ben will accept.
That's one of those attacks where Gerard's pretty happy either way.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like right now Gerard he's becoming more of the control deck right now, as opposed to wanting to race. For a while there, it looked like Gerard may be able to just race Ben, but seems to be settling in with that play.
It's going to be tough with Ben having Lingering Souls in the deck. Racing is not always going to be easy because Ben has a ton of control over damage racing. But Gerard has set this up pretty nicely. A lot of light to work with still. Resources left in hand.
And we go back to Ben. Just a Plains in hand right now. Draw with Swamp. That's no help. Activating Treetop Village, swinging for 4. Ben's only play right now is he just has to pass back. Gerard certainly with the advantage now. Can he capitalize? Drew Cryptic Command for the turn. Great card. He still does have the Fulminator to take care of Treetop Village as well. That's going to be the play. And he'll just pass.
Yeah, the shields are down here for this one moment. He does need to get that treetop off the table. But this does potentially open up an opportunity for Ben to draw something big.
Yeah. Not great, not terrible. Ben draws another copy of Treetop Village. Gets to put Gerard down to 10 on the swing. He does lose Treetop to the Fulminator Mage, but he has another one to replace it. So the attacks get to continue.
Treetop, not a shabby draw here. One of the more challenging cards in Ben's deck for Gerard to answer because Damnation and Abrupt Decay don't touch it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There isn't that much removal that's great at answering it.
Now,
at all, really.
Gerard does have things like, for example, Thragtusk and Tarmogoyf, which also happen to answer it in its own way, but in terms of clean removal, he doesn't have a ton.
Yeah, I think he has to answer it proactively. Gerard there just drawing and passing back the turn. He is at 9. Ben's going to continue with the same attacks. That puts Gerard down to 5. Ben's draw for the turn was Dark Confidant, and looks like he's just going to continue to jam. Gerard has an Abrupt Decay, has Cryptic Command. He can kill it cleanly, or he can go for a card draw. It'll just be the kill spell. And then end step Cryptic will bounce Treetop and draw.
Yeah, my first Pro Tour, I had a Treetop Village hibernated along with something else, and having a Treetop Village bounce your hand stinks because it takes a while to get back.
And Gerard's 4 mana here. It's going to be Knight of Souls Betrayal. That's come out of the sideboard in against Ben to take care of some Lingering Souls, and it does just that.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if that was going to be the plan for this matchup, but quite good right now.
Yeah. Ben maybe with an answer. He casts Treetop Village, or replays Treetop Village rather, and then casts Sword of Light and Shadow. This could get around a lot of things that Gerard is doing. He has Sword of Temptation as one of the main control cards in his hand. And that's not going to help too much. Gerard starts with the Inquisition of Kozilek, sees that Ben has just a Swamp. And he's going to have to pass back.
Yeah, Treetop Village is, not the best card for Gerard to play against. A lot of his removal sorcery speed.
Activate Treetop Village, put a sword on it. It's now going to be a 4/4. He'll swing in. Can Gerard answer? He has another Cryptic to bounce the Treetop Village.
You know, it's just exhausting to go through these kind of turns if you're Ben.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf to play for Ben. A little bit of a miss. Well, maybe not. I guess it's still fine. I was going to say Ben did play his land, so he couldn't recast Treetop Village that turn, or replay it. But he did get to cast Tarmogoyf, which is just about as good.
Well, with Gerard having Sower of Temptation in hand, that's not necessarily the case. Ben doesn't know this.
Right.
But I think Ben's best plan is to try to just ride the Treetop Village and hope that Gerard cannot find an answer for it.
And we know he does have the answer. It's Sower of Temptation takes the Tarmogoyf. And not only does that take a threat, but it also gives Gerard a blocker that deals with Treetop Village, so a huge swing for him.
Right, Sower, just an awesome one-off here. Again, not integral to any plans, but just another high-impact card that's hard to beat.
And a great draw for Ben. It's going to be Scavenging Ooze. He immediately puts a sword on it, and he has 2 green mana up. He can shrink that Tarmogoyf back down now if he needs to.
Yep. He can be very precise with it. He can make the Scavenging Ooze quite large as there's some creatures to mess around with. I don't think Ben's going to want to go too crazy stripping his own graveyard, because if the sword starts connecting, he's going to want to get some of those cards back.
Gerard at 5. He's going to have to get some sort of answer here. Looks like he's going to activate Creeping Tar Pit and swing it for 2. Now he passes back. And Ben will start on the graveyards. Gerard's creatures go first. One from Scavenging Ooze, another one for Fulminator Mage. And right now we get to untap a 5/5 Scavenging Ooze. Threatening to get a lot bigger as well. There are 4 green mana sources for Ben. He'll start by Maelstrom Pulsing the Sower of Temptation.
Not shabby.
Not a bad draw. Gerard will go ahead and concede to that one. So we are on to game 3. Ben Green able to get that damage across thanks to having some difficult to answer threats that Gerard just wasn't able to get by.
Yeah, basically Treetop Village was the real deal breaker there. Gerard's deck, you know, you just look at the removal suite: Maelstrom Pulse, Abrupt Decay, Damnation, Sower of Temptation, Mana Leak. This is not a great base of cards.
Yeah, not at all.
Now, Gerard can answer Treetop Village with many of his large creatures back on defense, but that plays into Ben's game plan a little bit because creature removal becomes live. The sword becomes live in a lot of those spots, so you really saw the power of Treetop Village there on Ben's side of the table. One of his most important cards in the matchup.
You did find that game just kind of thinking that Gerard really needed a Tasigur or a Thragtusk, didn't you?
Just a big, substantial thing.
Yeah.
You know, the cryptic commands were good for Gerard, the counter spells were, but he never found some big card to overpower what Ben had going on. He was treading water the whole time, and eventually Ben's threats were either too high impact or too hard for Gerard to remove.
Which is fair. So, there was an interesting game because it felt like we executed Gerard's game plan more or less. It was just the end part that didn't happen for him.
Exactly. I think he had that game mostly in control. His deck does have a vulnerability to man lands because of the nature of his removal suite, and the man lands got him. That's all there was to it.
Yeah, so players.
So while we get ready for our third and final game here, take a moment to talk about the Complete Commander, Benny Smith's guide, updated for 2014.
Yeah, so this is our unofficial guide. You can find out more about it at www.starcitygames.com/complete-commander. Find out more about this. It is an online guide for the format. It's been updated for Commander 2014, the set that just came out. Benny, a regular columnist on our site, writes a lot about more casual formats.
And he goes all the way back with Star City Games, all the way back for former Virginia state champion and someone who's been a vanguard of casual formats for as long as I can remember reading the website. So very well qualified to write this book. Again, updated for Commander 2014, available in PDF at starcitygames.com/complete-commander.
All right. Looking back to our match we have game 3 coming up. Like I said, it seemed like the game 2 was going mostly in Gerard's way. Basically, up until the second Treetop Village, does Gerard need to substantially change anything here?
There isn't a lot that he can really sideboard to give him more game against Treetop Village. I guess he could try to bring in Spellskite, but that seems so anemic against Ben's deck. A card it's very easy for him to kill.
His philosophy of only really good cards, that doesn't seem to work with Spellskite.
So I don't think there's much for him to do about it. It's just one of those things, you know? If Ben draws a bunch of treetop villages and Gerard doesn't find a creature or his creature doesn't stick, you know, you're going to lose some games that way. It's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah, I guess Gerard wants all his cards to trade or be a threat, and Spellskite doesn't really pass that test. I think he has it most likely for matchups where it's just very good. Twin, Infect,
Burn.
Burn.
You want him.
Right.
You want him for the Haymaker matchup. It's not here to block Scavenging Oozes and Treetop Villages.
Yeah. Underway, game 3. Gerard on the play starts off with Serum Visions. So generally the first 2 turns are just some combination of cantrips and discard spells for these players.
Yeah.
And he keeps both on top. So deck set up in a way that Gerard is happy with. We'll see what his keep was. It's going to be a Thoughtseize from Ben Green. So Gerard, 4 lands, Damnation, Cryptic Command, Maelstrom Pulse.
Slow hand, a lot of raw power.
Yeah, a lot of very generic answers here.
Yeah.
You know, Cryptic counters anything. Maelstrom Pulse blows up almost anything. Damnation blows up all the things.
And I'm curious now, Gerard left both the cards on top of his deck. I wonder if it was something proactive.
That certainly is what his hand's missing. If he's something like Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, would be very good here. And maybe more telling is what Ben decides to take here. The cards all seem relatively similar. He's going to go with the Maelstrom Pulse. Only 3 mana card in Gerard's hand. Maybe he's trying to sneak something under. Certainly if he has a Dark Confidant, that would be the card he would take.
But we saw, you know, Gerard left on top. Now he's playing a dual land untapped. And his draw for the turn was Mana Leak. So something to help him get to that sweet spot of 4 mana. We can start casting Cryptic Command and Damnation.
Yeah, shock and say go certainly is suspicious. Ben Stirring Wildwood and will Thoughtseize again. He gets to learn about the Mana Leak. If you're Gerard, you almost just fire off the Mana Leak.
It seems likely.
Yeah, it's the whole idea is that you always negate the Thoughtseize. Because if the mana doesn't matter.
I guess the other side of it is all these cards are about the same in terms of quality, and you do get 2 points of damage out of the deal if you let the Thoughtseize resolve.
Yeah, 2 points of damage. If you think that Mana Leak is not your worst card, you can show him your hand in the hope that he takes the wrong thing.
Right, and Gerard got paid off for 2 free points of damage there because Ben went ahead and took Mana Leak.
Yeah. Gerard, land number 3. Now, this is a window where Ben gets to resolve something, perhaps a Liliana here, or maybe even a Fulminator Mage would all be pretty good. And he'll go for Tarmogoyf. Tectonic Edge was the play. I believe he had a Liliana, but didn't have double black to cast it.
Yeah, he's on Tectonic Edge, Stirring Wirewood, and the Swamp.
So his mana getting to him a bit here. Gerard fetching a Watery Grave here. Yeah, had Ben had the Swamp for the Liliana, I would say this would seem very good for him.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But now we're getting in the territory here. If Gerard makes a land drop, he can cast Cryptic Command. That shuts out a lot of Ben's main phase action, and Gerard gets a lot of control over the way the game gets played.
Yeah, Cryptic Command just seems like an all-star in these against these mid-range decks.
Yep.
Deals with any quality card and then cantrips. We'll go back to Gerard. This is turn 4. We know Ben knows about Gerard's 2 4-drops. He's got Cryptic Command and Damnation. Both are pretty reactive. Gerard at 15, Tarmogoyf is a 3/4, so Gerard can let it hit him a couple times if he's hoping to get more value off a card like Damnation. He does have triple blue up as well, so both cards cast him. And he'll just go for the 1/1. Damnation takes care of Tarmogoyf. Shields are down. What can Ben resolve? Not much, but he did draw Thoughtseize, so maybe he can stop Gerard from resolving something.
Yeah, still no double black on that side of the table.
Yeah, this is going to be his only spell of the turn, actually. And Thoughtseize maybe saving Ben here. Didn't get to take the Cryptic Command because Gerard had drawn a Thragtusk.
Yep. So now it's, you know, can you find something to do
before Ben gets his second quality spell off?
Right, not only, yeah, but also from Ben's side of the table, how do you get Gerard to commit the Cryptic Command without leaving yourself without enough resources? And that draw from Gerard there, just perfect.
I mean, that draw's incredible. We have Jace, Architect of Thought. He's going to -2 it, so he shows 3 cards. Ben splits them into 2 piles, and Gerard picks one. I would assume he's, well, I was going to say he's going to take whatever piles two cards are in, but That Fulminator Mage is pretty attractive against Ben's Mana Screw.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what happens next turn if Ben draws a land? Because then you have Cryptic Command in your hand, and you've tapped out. You have a Fulminator Mage, but Ben's kind of broken out of the land screw. The more conservative route is just take the land in the mana leak.
Yeah, Gerard's hand is just counter magic, though, so Ben, say, draws a land and resolves a big threat next turn. Gerard's not ready to deal with that either.
Yeah.
I like the mana leak here because Ben probably cannot both make a threat and kill Jace. So Gerard goes ahead and... Yeah, he took Fulminator Mage, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, Ben will spend his whole turn Maelstrom pulsing away the Jace.
I mean, that's a big win for Gerard.
And he'll go after Ben's mana. Stirring Wildwood will be the victim. And now Ben down to just black mana. He's going to need running draws of lands. And doesn't get there, but he does have a Dark Confidant, which he drew last turn.
Yeah, Confidant not bad here. Gerard, we know, is running pretty light on resources down to basically just the Cryptic Command.
Yeah, Gerard needs to get board presence before Ben draws out of this land screw.
Yeah.
Once Ben draws out of land screw, it seems unlikely Gerard will be able to win.
It just depends how pronounced Ben's colored mana difficulty is. You know, if Ben finds a black dual land and then all of a sudden a lot of his hands unlocked, Gerard's in trouble. But
Gerard, did he find, and wow, he found the Abrupt Decay for Dark Confidant. Huge for him. Able to do that on end step even.
yeah, this is perfect because now Gerard just puts Ben back in the same holding pattern against Cryptic Command.
Yeah, and it looks like Ben finally does draw the land. He draws Windswept Heath. He's going to be able to fetch for a dual land. He can go start jamming these Lilianas. Has to decide between green and white mana.
He has both Abrupt Decay and Path to Exile in hand, so.
So he is turning off one of his cards no matter what he picks. Green probably seems like the safer choice. White is certainly the splash in these Opson decks.
Yeah. And if Gerard had a creature at this point, he probably would have cast it by now, so.
And here's going to be Liliana number 1. He does have 2. Gerard certainly cannot let that one resolve. It'll be a counter draw for him. Gerard needs to find another card like Thragtusk, some sort of way to close the game. Tassiger would be great too. Here's Serum Visions, that will help him get there. Draws 1. Can he scry into a threat? Don't know. Top and bottom. Well, at least one of the cards Gerard likes. I would think it's one of his finishers. Maybe something like Cryptic Command.
Yeah, I would, or Snapcaster, I would take at this point too.
Ben gets one more turn here. He's going to go for Liliana again. This one, does it resolve? No Creeping Tar Pit yet for Gerard, so he does not have a way to attack it down. He does have 2 cards in hand.
I mean, Ben's right back in this if Liliana resolves.
Snapcaster Mage targeting Mana Leak.
And I'm sure that Gerard would have preferred to wait to be able to Snapcaster Cryptic Command because that's so much more powerful, but that Liliana can enter play. It's too good right in the spot.
Now we have to see the card he kept on top. It was Compulsive Research. A great card here for him.
Yeah.
What Gerard's been doing is he's been using this extra time he got to build up card advantage to the point where now he's not even down on cards to Ben anymore.
No, he's actually ahead, I would argue. Or I would assume at this point.
Yeah, Ben with 2 cards. Inquisition will see Path to Exile and Abrupt Decay. We'll go ahead and take the Path. Just Abrupt Decay left for Ben. Creeping Tar Pit for Gerard. And he'll go ahead and make Ben discard the last card in his hand. And you weren't kidding. These things just grind down the opponent.
Right. So now Ben's in a position where he has a Titanic Edge that can answer the Creeping Tar Pit. So it's Snapcaster Mage against very little, but Ben with a lot of big draws. Gerard as well. I mean, Gerard has a slight advantage here. He has a thing in play. He's ahead in life total. He's got a lot of mana, and his deck's probably more powerful at this stage than Ben's, but Ben is drawing very live here.
Yeah, a top deck Siege Rhino this turn would really turn things around.
Yeah.
Can Ben do it? We'll see. He does not have too many draws to which to try, but if he can get a 4/5, it's going to be real good. It'll be Fulminator Mage. That'll buy him a turn. Gerard activating Creeping Tar Pit, swing. Ben has a block, has a pretty clear play. He can block and destroy the Tar Pit.
Yeah.
go for another draw next turn.
I can't imagine he wants to race in this spot, so this seems like the play.
Yeah, he can, and this is an aggressive line. Ben's going to let the creatures trade because he feels like he has the Tarpit answered in Tectonic Edge.
I would just be wary of removing
rid
a
of the
land from the
yeah.
table right now when you're this down on resources, and Siege Rhino is one of your big draws.
Gerard with Dark Slick Shores. He doesn't have too much action going on either. And it is Duress. Gerard just has a land also. And last card is Dark Confidant from Ben. Good card, but it is low life totals here. Gerard has a good draw of his own. This one's Ashiok Nightmare Weaver.
And Ashiok's actually pretty sweet in this spot because if Ben has to attack the Ashiok, then he's likely to get punked out by his own Dark Confidant.
Yeah, he doesn't have too many turns of Confidant that he can work with. Yeah, he'll go ahead and hit Ashiok. Ashiok's down to 3. But Ben's draw here, he Dark Confidant into the land and drew Siege Rhino. Perfect for Ben.
Pretty perfect set of draws right there.
And it was only a matter of time till Ben hit one of those. That was certainly the card he's been hoping for the last 4 turns.
Yeah.
Gerard plussing once again. This time he hits a bevy of creatures. Siege Rhino, Fulminator Mage, but the damage has been done. Ben with a 4/5 on the board may have just turned the corner. Gerard with the Verdant Catacombs that we know about, and now it's back over to Ben. Draw shows Verdant Catacombs, draws Abrupt Decay. Ben is firing on all cylinders now.
Abrupt Decay couldn't be better in this spot too.
Yeah, Abrupt Decay is the Ashiok, and Gerard just... he's got to be feeling like this one got away from him.
So in this spot, I would have preferred, because this Abrupt Decay is almost certainly going to resolve, because it's uncounterable, I would have preferred Ben to move to combat first.
So that you can't Cryptic tap team, or?
It just gives Gerard less information on what to do with Cryptic commands.
Does Gerard have a Cryptic?
Well, it's in his deck.
Okay.
Ben, maybe he has it right now, maybe he doesn't.
You are right.
But since this Abrupt Decay is just going to resolve, you might as well move into combat, attack, see what Gerard does, and then Abrupt Decay after the fact.
Yeah, deny the information until the last possible moment.
Yeah. It's also possible Gerard has something like Vendilion Click in his hand, and you'd be better served maybe Abrupt Decaying Vendilion Click instead of Ashiok. There's just... I don't like...
If he clicked in to block the Dark Confidant?
Right, I just don't like the timing of this. I think Ben can resolve this Abrupt Decay on Ashiok after combat.
Yeah, that is true. If Gerard had clicked in Dark Confidant, that would be... Or had played in Flash and Vendilion Click, Ben would want this Abrupt Decay to hit the click almost certainly.
Right.
That said, Gerard does not actually... Yeah, he has 1 click out of the board. He will fetch down to 8. And this Dark Confidant just doing all the heavy lifting here. Ben got one for 1 turn, and boy, did it matter.
Yeah, there's some pretty miraculous draws here from Ben. It was looking like... we were talking a couple turns earlier where Ben's got some draws left, but it looks like Gerard's in the commanding position, and Ben found those draws.
And up to that point, Ben's draws, to be fair, had been pretty lackluster. You felt like he was kind of due for a business card, but boy, did it perform.
Well, he's in a tough position in this matchup because he has to leave in some of his reactive cards, but it's susceptible to either Gerard's discard being live for the entire game, or you have creature removal in your hand and Gerard just never presents a creature. Both of those problems can come up. So even Ben's okay reactive cards,
they're pretty bad.
They contribute to a systemic problem.
The Abrupt Decay, though, speaking for X cards, that one's going to be pretty good here. That goes ahead and takes care of the Ashiok. Pre-combat, Ben's going to swing in or try to. Here's the Cryptic command you talked about. Gerard will tap and draw. And if you're Gerard, you're looking for Thragtusk Tassiger.
Damnation would also play.
Yep, he does have a 2nd copy of Damnation. The first one was Thought Seized a long time ago, but you're absolutely right.
Sower of Temptation would not be shabby.
No, not at all. So fair enough, there are a lot of cards that get the job done here. Gerard draws for the turn. Fulminator Mage, one of his 2 cards. Don't know the other one just yet. So we start, here's the Fulminator Mage. Other card's gonna remain hidden. Both players at 8, game 3. Does Ben opts not to crack a special line. So first we start with Bob Trigger. Bob shows Stirring Wildwood. And Ben draws for turn. So far, Bob being a pretty good team player, just flipping the lands and letting Ben draw the spells.
Yep. Land and then really awesome piece of business is about how you want to do it in this spot.
Yeah.
And sorry, the land's also a Stirring Wildwood, so the land's also a piece of business.
Yeah, the
it's
land,
perfect.
It was great. Siege Rhino swings in. Gerard drops down to 4. And here's the Stirring Wildwood from Ben. That was the draw we knew about, and he passes back. Gerard possibly facing down lethal here. Draws for the turn. What can he do to stabilize?
What's Ben looking for every turn off of Dark Confidant? Give me a Treetop Village, and then give me something sweet.
Fulminator Mage swings in. Will Ben make the trade? Does not. Ben drops to 6. How does Gerard survive to next turn? He has the Fulminator for the Stirring Wildwood. Does he have a kill spell for Siege Rhino? He's going to need one.
I mean, Gerard's playing his heart out here. I think there's a lot of players that would be really loath to attack with Fulminator Mage in that spot. But Gerard feels like he can block out of this turn, and he really needs to get in every point of damage that he can, because his path to victory at this point probably involves Dark Confidant on Ben's side of the table hitting something big.
Inquisition of Kozilek takes care of Slaughter Pact. Ben with no cards, Gerard with 1.
Now the problem is that now combat's just face up. I mean, Ben can go untap and attack, and Gerard has
to have something.
Gerard has to have an answer to Siege Rhino.
And Gerard also is going to have to sacrifice his Fulminator Mage to stop the Wildwood, so he won't have any threats himself.
Yep.
But maybe, I mean, if you're Gerard, what? You're buying yourself one more shot at drawing Thragtusk.
Or you're hoping that Ben finds a low-impact, high-mana spell off his Dark Confidant this turn, something like
and then
Liliana.
Again next turn.
If you find something like Liliana the Veil, even
Twice.
Lingering Souls, you get a shot at something bad happening.
Yeah, if Ben's next 2 flips off Dark Confidant, deal 6. That is an out Gerard can play to. As long as one of them's not Siege Rhino.
Right. You know, Fulminator Mage is another card in Ben's deck right now that doesn't really matter that much, but is a lot of damage. So that's what Gerard's trying to play for right now. If he can survive this turn, and hopefully Ben finds high-cost, low-impact cards off his Dark Confidant.
And Gerard counting his lands here. I'm wondering what it is he's sitting on. A lot of his high-impact cards are gone. Both his Cryptics have been used. His Jace has been used. One of his 2 Ashioks. And he's going to sacrifice. It was a Snapcaster range, and this is huge. He sacrifices the Fulminator to take care of Stirring Wildwood, and Snapcasters the Damnation.
I think Gerard was trying to figure out if there's some way to Snapcaster Cryptic there and maybe finagle it. But that's the safest play. And now we're back.
It's top deck wars.
And Gerard with a lot of goodies.
All right. Who top decks the threat first? Gerard hits the Thragtusk.
That'll play.
And that was one of the best ones he could do. Goes up to 9. Ben with Siege Rhino. He has him. Blow for blow, he is matching him. Gerard now back down to 6. Ben up to 9. Even so, the Thragtusk wins the fight here, but only barely. And did Gerard hit something else? He is hoping for a copy of Snapcaster Mage, Thragtusk, Tasigur.
Any of his big stuff.
For Ben, it's less clear. Gerard offers a trade, Thragtusk for Siege Rhino. Not a great trade for Ben, maybe one he has to take.
Well, I think the problem is if you take the trade here and then Gerard has the 3/3 left over, I almost feel like you just go ahead, you take this hit.
Swing and draw another Siege Rhino?
I think Ben's got to, if he draws a removal spell, something like Path to Exile, something, he gets an opportunity to chump block the Thragtusk next turn, and I think his best shot to win is to take this hit.
If he loses the Rhino, it seems a lot of his top decks no longer win.
We're back in the same spot we talked about a couple turns ago, where it looks pretty even, but Gerard's deck's much more powerful.
Right, yeah. Ben doesn't want to take the trade, but doesn't want to take the damage, but he has to. So Ben drops down to 4, Gerard at 6.
Yeah, I love that play from Ben. I think he's got to throw caution to win a little bit and hope that the Siege Rhino is good.
And what was Gerard's draw now is the question. In Damnation, he's going to go ahead and Damnation away his own card.
Gerard just pleading for Ben to miss a draw step here.
And it is Tarmogoyf. That'll play.
That's the opposite of missing.
How big is it? Is it a 6/7? That's going to be a huge question here. Is it a 5/6 or 6/7? We have creature, land, instant.
Sorcery, Planeswalker.
I don't think there's anything else. It was just 5/6. If you're Ben, you really want to find a 6th creature type in here.
Come
6 card
on.
type. It's a world of difference. Just 5.
Yep.
So 5/6 Tarmogoyf.
The 4 staples that we know in these long, drawn-out games of instant land, sorcery creature, plus planeswalker mixed in.
And Gerard
That's
draws
not-
Sower of Temptation. He top decks him back. Ben goes down to 1.
All right, that will Sower will also play.
Does Ben have an out? I don't even know anymore. What does he hit?
Well, if it's a kill spell for the Sower, he gets his Goyf back, and then we're back at parity-ish.
It's Godless Shrine. So there you go. Gerard Fabiano wins the top deck war. He wins 2 games to 1. He'll improve to 6-0 for Ben Green. His first loss at 5-1. Still a great tournament for him.
I'm happy to call that right now, thus far, the sweetest game of the tournament. That was a lot of fun, back and forth, and you can see, when you get into that kind of spot, either player can win, but it feels like Gerard has an edge. He just has more high-impact cards in that sort of spot than a deck like Obsan does.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see